Hello Axie Faction, welcome back. Today I want to talk about everything we know about Axie Battles version 2. First, we're going to talk about what we know, then we're going to talk about what that could possibly mean for the future, and finally, what you can do to prepare for that future. Real quick, I am not a financial advisor, I'm not an expert by any means. I am a gamer and a crypto enthusiast. I love Axie Infinity, and I think that sharing ideas is the best way to grow the community. Now before we hop in, for those of you who are still concerned about the price of SLP, I want to direct your attention to this page right up here. Now for those of you who have been playing Axie Infinity for more than a few months, you'll know that the price of SLP has been a hot topic since late August. And Sky Mavis responded correctly. In September 22nd, they changed the breeding fees, effectively doubling the amount of SLP needed per breed. This in fact stabilized SLP and kept it stable all the way up until December. Now everyone knows that we need more burning mechanisms, but if we look a little bit further down this article, right here. Now I highly recommend that you pause the video and read everything that's on the screen. If you don't want to, that's fine. I'm just going to read the highlighted bit here. If we don't have enough SLP to meet this upcoming surge in demand, we will have a situation where the price of SLP surges very high initially to meet demand, and then crashes back down as growth normalizes and more SLP is created by players. One could even argue that SLP issuance was too low in the pre-Ronin era. This created a massive surge in SLP price that was short-lived and ultimately caused unrealistic expectations around the Axie economy. This is Sky Mavis directly telling us that for Battles V2, we are going to need a huge supply of SLP, which is what is currently happening. Speculate on that as you'd like. For now, let's hop into our discussion about Axie Battles version 2. Let's start off with this picture here. Now, this is the most official leak that we have to date. This was released by the Sky Mavis team during a dev talk back in October. Now, there's a ton of information that we can glean from this. First, you can see that instead of just having ranged cards and melee cards, now we have power, attack, skill, and secret. You may also notice that a lot of the card names are very familiar. Tiny Turtle is a card that we use in V1, as well as Buzz Buzz and Cuckoo and Mary. Each one of these cards, despite having the same name, they have very different effects. If you look at the bottom three cards, you'll notice that these cards all have utility in terms of your Axie party, not just the individual Axie that the card belongs to. Mary and Cuckoo can target any of your allies to give them a buff in attack or defense, and Buzz Buzz actually deals splash damage to all of your opponent's Axies, as well as shuffling one Daze card into your opponent's discard pile. This means that the entire targeting system for how Axies attack each other could be very different. It also means there's going to be a lot more utility with our discard pile, which is essentially non-existent in Axie Battles version 1. Looking at the top three cards now, I also want to point out that unlike Axie Battles version 1, these cards may only have attack, they may only have defense, or they may have neither. But by far the most exciting part of this leak is Sakura. Not the effect, the card. Let me explain why. Since the inception of Axie Infinity, there have only been cards attached to the mouthpiece, the tail, the horns, and the back. But with the release of Sakura, we now know that the eyes and ears will have cards of their own as well. That means the amount of playable cards will likely jump from 132 cards up to 200 cards. And just below the picture of this leak, we have the Sky Mavis team saying, "We're gearing up for an internal test of Origin." Origin is the team behind Axie Battles version 2. If it passes the period of internal testing, then we will release it to a select group of veteran battlers as the next step. We already know that they finished their internal test of Origin because there's a select group of veteran battlers playing Axie Battles version 2 as we speak. We know this for a fact because of the infamous Venapot who leaked this picture to the internet and got himself banned in the process. It was a terrible turn of events for Venapot, but he gave us this gift in the process. So here you can see we have a major change to the UI system. No longer are the Axie speed stats displayed on the top of the screen. Instead, what we have are these symbols up top here, and these are most likely symbols that are going to make it easier for the player to understand where the opponent is at. In Axie Battles version 1, we have to count our opponent's cards and energy to know exactly what options they have. This, I think, is going to expedite that process. If we look at the battlefield, you can see that not only are there Axies, but there are little pets as well. We have a tree trunk up here that looks like it's absorbing damage, and a bird up top here with a little bird symbol over top of every single one of his friendly Axie teammates. Now if we focus on the cards, Tadpole says shuffle 1 Jinx into your opponent's discard pile. Again, more utility with that discard pile. And at the bottom, we see down here that there's a 0-cost card, meaning that there's still 0-cost cards in the game, so that's an important thing to look out for. And this card here, which looks suspiciously like this coin card from Hearthstone. Hearthstone is a turn-based card game, and the player who goes second is given the coin card to help ease the pace of the game for the player who goes second. Now finally, let's take a look at the Axies on this playing field. Now I bring this up because there are some parts on these Axies that I haven't seen before, like the baby bird on the back of this bird here, or the horns and black wings on this bird over here. Now this is super exciting to me because of this. This tweet by one of the leading game developers says, crafting and upgrading parts has been a part of our vision all along. This means the utility of your Axies may change drastically over time, especially as we head into V2. So what do we know for certain? We know that the eyes and ears are about to have cards of their own. We know that branching evolution is going to be a huge factor in gameplay soon. And we also know that the speed stat is going to take a more backseat role in gameplay. And now that we have all of our information, let's start to speculate on what that could mean for the future. So before I said with the introduction of the eyes and ears, we could see up to 200 playable cards in Battles V2. But if we are to assume that each part has a branch into 2 possible evolutions, that means our 200 possible cards turns into 600 possibilities. With 600 card options, the meta will be so advanced, it'll likely take years to figure out all the different combinations and what Axies are truly good and what Axies can stay by the wayside. And if we're to assume that we need SLP to evolve our Axies body parts, then that is likely why the Sky Mavis team thinks we need such a large surplus of SLP moving into Battles V2. Now, considering the fact that we no longer have the Axies speed stats displayed on the top of the screen, in combination with the coin card, very much like the Hearthstone coin card, I am of the belief that this is no longer a speed-based card game, but rather a traditional turn-based card game. I am 99% sure that this is the case, and it's because if you look at the top here, it actually says turn 4. Whereas in the past, it would say round instead. I'm sure the speed stat will still determine which Axie goes first, but only for the player whose turn it currently is. Now, I've said in the past that Axie Battles version 1 and Axie Battles version 2 are completely separate entities and both could be played at the same time, but somebody recently challenged me on that idea and I realized I couldn't find any evidence for that. So I don't know for certain if that is the case, but I still believe it is, and I'll tell you why. Now, they literally chose the name Axie Infinity because they wanted Axies to have infinite use possibilities. This includes Axie battles, the LAN gameplay, and even RPG elements. They've also stated that they want third-party developers to create other use cases for Axies as well. With that in mind, why would Sky Mavis choose to remove Battles V1 from the roster when Battles V2 is such a vastly different game from what we can tell? For that matter, only time will truly tell. For now, let's move into what you can do to prepare for Axie Battles version 2. Now currently, if you're looking for a meta Axie, you want them to be fast because you want them to attack first. So you want the eyes and the ears of an Aqua or Bird because they have the highest speed stat. But moving into Axie Battles version 2, we know that the speed stat is going to be much less important, and we know that the eyes and ears are going to have cards of their own, meaning even if this is a really good Axie in Battles 1, it could be worthless in Battles 2. Now, most of us playing Axie Infinity know that body parts with the same name usually have synergy when played together, like the double anemone. The anemone cards heal 50 points of health when used, but when you have both anemone parts on the same Axie, it heals twice that much. It's the same situation for a beast with Nutcracker. When Nutcracker is used by itself, it just deals its base damage, but used with the combination of another Nutcracker card, it deals 120% damage. But moving into Axie Battles version 2, you don't want just Nutcracker on the mouth and the tail, you want Nutcracker on the mouth, tail, and ears. Now personally, I have been breeding beasts with the double puppy gene on the eyes and the ears in preparation for Axie Battles version 2. Now, during the inception of Axie Infinity, all the Axies were mutants. There were no pure breeds. It took a long time for players to breed purebred Axies, and then once they bred purebred Axies, they realized, well, wait a minute, we want fast Axies, so they started breeding mutants with aqua and bird eyes and ears. Understanding the cyclical nature of this game, I'm of the belief that purebred Axies are going to be very coveted at the beginning of Axie Battles version 2. So in preparation for Axie Battles version 2, what I would do is focus on the eyes and the ears. I would want to make sure that the Axies are pure with 0 breeds, and I also want to make sure that they have synergy among their body parts. That concludes my deep dive into Axie Battles version 2. Let me know in the comments below if I missed anything. Until next time, thanks.